So it looks like Sebastian Stan is playing Two-Face in The Batman Part 2, and today I'm going to talk about why I think that is the perfect casting, and also what I think it tells us about the movie's plot and the movie's story. Now, it's important to know that although this seems official, we don't have any official confirmation from Matt Reeves or Sebastian Stan or anyone involved in the project itself. The confirmation comes from The Hollywood Reporter, which is a respected trade in Hollywood, The Hollywood Reporter. So this feels real, right? It feels a lot more real. I don't really kind of report on like the Twitter rumors and the scooper stuff that you see, but this has come from an actual trade, so it feels very real, and it feels like a matter of time before this gets officially confirmed. And yeah, I think this casting is really, really great. He's a great actor, and he seems to be someone who really disappears into the roles. I mean, beyond The Winter Soldier, he was in Pam and Tommy, which he really, like, if you look at the photos of him as Tommy Lee and then look at Tommy Lee, and that show was really underrated. As like someone who's not just a Motley Crue fan, but a Tommy Lee fan, a fan of his solo work and Methods of Mayhem and all of that, I was really interested in this show, and I thought he really did a great job with the story of what went on with Pam and Tommy and their tape and everything. And then also he did the Donald Trump thing as well, which, movie aside, I thought his performance was really, really great, and you kind of see clips of it and edits quite a lot on Instagram and TikTok. So it's a performance that kind of cut through and a lot of people resonate with. So if he's able to disappear into these roles, I get really excited thinking about what potentially he can do as Harvey Dent and ultimately as Two-Face. Because I do think in this movie we will see the courtroom scene, we'll see the acid, we'll see all of that, and we'll see his transformation from Harvey Dent into Two-Face in this movie. But I do really like his work in Marvel. I haven't actually seen Thunderbolt, so I don't know his current status, but I assume he's like alive and is still going to be back for Avengers. But Captain America and The Winter Soldier is still my favorite MCU project to date, so, and he's a big part of that, so getting him over to DC, getting him playing for the right team is really great for me. I do feel like this is probably a one and done though. I imagine his contract with Marvel is pretty ironclad, and it probably wouldn't allow him to come to the other side of the street. There'll be all sorts of contractual issues if they try and keep him for like an extended universe, especially if they were going to merge Pattinson into the DCU, which I think is pretty much dead now. But if they were, I don't think they would let Sebastian Stan be in the DCU and the MCU at the same time. So I think he's probably just in this one, maybe in a part 3 if we get a part 3. But I'm pretty confident that it makes sense that this would just be a one and done for him in terms of playing in the DC sandbox. And as well, he looks like a contemporary for Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne. If you look at the two of them together, they really do look like they could have that same sort of dynamic that you see from Bruce and Harvey in those early years comics, in the Year One comic, in obviously Long Halloween that we're going to get to. But not only will he disappear into the role, I think him and Robert together as Bruce and Harvey works really, really well. I can imagine them having really great chemistry together. I'm sure they will have maybe screen tested together. But Sebastian Stan in this role and him working with Robert Pattinson all sounds really, really great to me. So yeah, it does look like, if you consider that Scarlett Johansson is also rumoured to be playing his wife, Gilda Dent, it looks like this is going to be an adaptation of the Long Halloween and potentially even Dark Victory, which I find very interesting because a lot of Batman projects previously, like the Nolan projects and things like that, have borrowed elements from the Long Halloween, but none of them have really been a straight up adaptation of that story. That's what we're going with, and it does make sense. It's going to be another kind of murder mystery investigation, so instead of the Riddler killing, like in the first one, we get the Holiday Killer. They will probably put a different twist on the ending, because one thing about adapting comics is it's really difficult to do for a casual audience. So if they were going to adapt the Holiday Killer, you would have to go into setting up and explaining to a general audience who Alberto Falcone is, who Julian Day is, all these characters, and then it kind of telegraphs what's going to happen at the end. Whereas obviously people that are comic fans, they already know. It's a bit like, who is Red Hood, right? You'd have to explain to a general audience Jason Todd's whole story, which then completely telegraphs that he's a Red Hood. So I do think they'd probably change who the killer was. And that does bring up quite an interesting problem, because it's also been reported that Zoe Kravitz will not be returning as Catwoman in this movie, and Catwoman is a very important part of the Long Halloween and Dark Victory. So adapting this story without Catwoman would be a little bit challenging, but maybe that's where they kind of deviate from the source material and do something else. And as well as problems, it also brings up a great opportunity for more Sofia Falcone. Sofia Falcone, big part of the Penguin series, absolutely stole the show, won the Emmy, I think, for it. Everyone loved her performance, so I feel like getting her in part 2 is a bit of a no-brainer, and a great way to do that would be to tell the Long Halloween story and have her involved in that. Obviously, we've already had the death of Carmine Falcone in the first movie, so you've already got that part of the story in place, and then you can build up from there and have Sofia carry on what she did in the Penguin TV show. And then that also means more Joker. So the Joker had a supporting role in that comics, and it does seem like Barry Keoghan is going to come back and reprise his role of the Joker. Like I've said before, I think that's a good idea because I feel like the Joker's a little bit oversaturated, a little bit overexposed at the moment. So not having it be fully Joker focused, but have him as a supporting character doing stuff in the background, so he's still there, because you can't have Batman without the Joker, but he doesn't need to be in the main part of the story. It's possible he can just play his part like he did in the comics and get involved in the killings and just generally be like a bit of a menace who's got his own plans whilst all this is going on, and Batman and Gordon and everyone are so preoccupied with the Holiday Killer. Then, yep, there's a lot of talk of Robin in this movie as well, and I do feel like the Dark Victory story would be a great way to introduce Dick Grayson as Robin. Forget his name, but the kid from Adolescence who just won the Golden Globe, he seems like he'd be nailed on for Robin. I really do hope they get him for this. He seems to be doing more movie work. He's doing the Pride and Prejudice movie. So getting him in as Robin would be great. And if we can tell that Flying Grayson story, we could tell Dick Grayson's origins in this movie. That's something that I'm really excited to see. I think Robin in the Batman universe would work better than people probably think. I know there's like a bit of a tonal clash with how Robin is to the tone of the Batman movie, but I do definitely think they can make it work. And Robin does need to be like a kid, like a younger actor. You don't want someone in the kind of 20s turning into Robin. And Owen Cooper, that's his name, Owen Cooper would be perfect for Robin in this. So it does seem like it will very much follow the tone of the first movie as well. And one thing that I am really excited about is it seems potentially like Hush in the Court of Owls is not going to happen. And in one of my other videos where I kind of talked about potentially Deathstroke being the villain, I talked about Hush and the Court of Owls and how I didn't think that would necessarily work. And I didn't really want to do the whole secret society kind of controlling Gotham storyline. I didn't really like that idea. And then Hush as well, I feel like kind of retraces what Riddler's story was in terms of him knowing Bruce and being in a similar situation in childhood, but then them two both going off in totally different directions. I think you'd be retracing too much of that with Hush. And again, same problem with Red Hood, same problem with like Holiday Killer. You would have to spend quite a bit of time explaining who Thomas Elliot is, which would then kind of telegraph who Hush is to a general audience. So you fall into that same problem that you were getting. So by including some other villains, you do avoid those problems entirely. And there's some great villains to choose from that are in The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. Mr. Freeze and Solomon Grundy. I've been talking about Mr. Freeze for a while. Him and Hugo Strange are probably my top picks for who I want to see as villains. He does have a small role in these comics and he does come up against Batman. So I'd be quite happy for Mr. Freeze to be in this, not as the main villain, but just as someone who Batman kind of runs into and maybe has a fight with, and that's all he does. That would be a really great way to adapt the Dark Victory story and also make this Gotham feel a bit fuller and a bit more full of Batman characters. I know it was a bit of a meme in the Penguin that Batman never showed up when all this stuff was going on in the Penguin. So rectifying that by having villains turn up in minor roles, they don't have to be the main villain. You can use these villains sparingly if you want, and it really helps build out that world and gets, some of us who are fans of these characters and really want to see them on the big screen, it makes us pop and it really makes us excited for these projects. Along with Solomon Grundy. Obviously Grundy has a small, but I would argue important role in The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. So down in the sewers, that's where Grundy lives. Obviously he ends up entangled in Batman and Harvey Dent's problems, and especially in Dark Victory when Harvey is missing and they potentially suspect that he's in the sewers with Solomon Grundy. That is something that they could also put into this movie as well, and it gets us, Solomon Grundy on the big screen, gets us a cool fight, and that is something that I'd really be hyped for. All in all, it all sounds really good. Sebastian Stan is a great actor. I think he'd be a phenomenal Two-Face. It leads into an interesting way to adapting these stories, and also it stays very grounded, even with Solomon Grundy and Mr. Freeze and that, you can keep it very grounded, which then keeps mysticism stuff. You can keep that in the DCU if they're doing Brave and the Bold, and potentially like Ra's al Ghul is going to be in that, and the Lazarus Pit. Go really heavy on the mysticism in the DCU. Keep this grounded in street level, but expand it out a bit more and include some of these other villains. So yeah, that's what I think. I think Sebastian Stan is going to be great. I think this, along with potentially Scarlet as Gilda Dent, pretty much confirms we're getting quite a strong Long Halloween Dark Victory adaptation. But I want to know what you think. Are you a fan of this cast? Would you like to see an adaptation of The Long Halloween, or where would you like to see this story go? Let me know your comments in below, and if you like the video, hit like and subscribe, really helps me out. Thanks for watching.